This conference will now be recorded.
I would like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Mayor Kadowski.
Here.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Chris Atkinson.
Here.
Jake Krieger.
Here.
Mike Skippington.
Here.
Corey Campbell.
Here.
And Jim Allen.
Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. Before we start the meeting, I would like to just remind everybody that if you're going to speak on anything tonight, just speak into your mic so that we can get it all recorded. Okay? I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5A, action on the Plan Commission minutes from August 8th, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Anybody online that would like to speak on items not on tonight's agenda? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Number 7, action items. Action regarding a planned unit development request for gridiron entities for a new Cambria hotel located at 2145 South Oneida Street, parcels VA-67-A-8, VA-67-A, VA-460-P-108, and VA-90-4-11. Aaron.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you to the Plan Commissioners for being able to meet on a special Plan Commission item. Do appreciate it. On behalf of Gridiron Entities and Acts 18 Ministries, the request before the Plan Commission tonight is for a planned unit development to allow for a building height to increase from 36-foot height to 58-foot height from finished grade to allow for the construction of a new 4-story, 100-room Cambria hotel on South Oneida Street on the parcels as listed. One item of note is that the 58-foot height, as requested, is to the top of the parapet wall on the property, or the building. They're about 15% of the building. The remaining 85% of the building is at a height of plus or minus 50 feet. So again, that extra parapet wall is there to screen the mechanicals and is necessary for that purpose. The requested PUD has been revised from the original request of 70 feet, which was requested at the Site Plan Review Committee earlier this month. Following the Site Plan Review Committee meeting and the neighborhood meeting and the Site Plan Review Committee action of recommending denial of a 70-foot building on a 6-to-1 vote, the development team has revised their plan pretty significantly to lower it from a 5-story building at 70 feet to, again, to a 4-story building at 58 feet max, or plus or minus 50 feet for most of it. In addition, another change to the project was that previously there were identified a couple commercial pads along South Oneida Street. Those have been removed and replaced with parking. So there's a total of 127 parking stalls available on the property as proposed. The request tonight for the PUD isn't to get into the site plan requirements or things like that. This is really to focus strictly on the height request and how that fits in. Parcels are within the VC Village Center zoning district, which lists hotels as a permitted use. So again, the hotel is a permitted use, and the ancillary uses, bar, restaurant, so on and so forth, are all permitted uses within that VC zone. What I'll do is bring up a site plan here. Share my screen. First of all, just to provide a sense of bearings, this is the property outlined in yellow right here. Element Way to the south, South Oneida Street to the west, Morris Avenue parcel to the north. The requested orientation of the building is along the north property line right here in an L shape with primary frontage on South Oneida Street. I'll go to the proposed renderings. What you see here are the renderings as proposed for the 4-story L-shaped building. Again, South Oneida Street in front, right here, and just a different perspective from South Oneida Street, the primary view right here. So again, 4-story building fronting on South Oneida Street. In terms of the overall site plan, we can see here the L-shape, Oneida Street right here, parking lots with access to South Oneida Street and Element Way for egress purposes. There's also a fire lane, drive lane access around the building as well. So with that as background, what I'd like to do now is hand it off to Alex and Brian from JCAP as the hotel developers for the project, and Jeff with Acts 1-8. They have a few things they'd like to present to the Planning Commission. Following their remarks, Consolidated Construction as a construction firm for the property. We'll have a short PowerPoint just to, again, provide some additional background on the project.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yep. Any questions for me on the first end?
Aaron, one point I want to bring up. The tallest part of the building is the parapet wall. That is to cover the screened units on the roof, which is by our code. We have to cover them for view, so.
Yep, that's correct.
It's nothing to do with, even though it's a height issue, but that is needed for our codes.
That is correct. Nothing else, I'll hand it off then to the development team.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jeff Van Beaver with the Acts 1-8 Foundation. Address is 2145 South Oneida Street.
Alex Paternos with JCAP, 1220 East Fillmore Street, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we have heard the concerns of the Site Plan Review Committee and the neighbors, and we have a strong desire to make this a great place to live and do business. We're very proud to be a part of the village of Ashwaubenon because we are hometown people all my life. Our goal is to redevelop this property into a beautiful project and create the following: a walking and urban environment project that the village would be proud of. 2, neighborhood properties would increase in value. People would want to move to this area, not move away. And a very critical piece also is that new development provides wonderful services to the village. As the founder of Acts 1-8 Ministry and Acts 1-8 Foundation, we started the ministry in 2002. We're about impacting hometown people by hometown people and beyond with acts of Christian kindness. To date, our ministry is training over 700 churches nationally to do acts of Christian kindness in their backyard, including Green Bay and Ashwaubenon, along with drilling our 170th water well in Africa recently. We believe, our board of directors believes, this development will provide perpetuity for our organization. And how we've been connected to Ashwaubenon is we started renting in Ashwaubenon in 2005. Acts 1-8 then purchased his first piece of property at 2145 South Oneida in 2011, and then purchased the property directly behind in 2016. Acts 1-8 Foundation
sister organization to Acts 18 Ministry, took over ownership of this 2145 building and property directly behind in 2019. Acts 18 Foundation then purchased the Asheville Square property, 2113 to 2129 South Oneida, in 2020. Acts 18 Foundation purchased the Asheville Square property, knowing that a PUD was granted for a 4-story office building 1 block south of us on Oneida Street. This again would help us give opportunity to redevelop and create perpetuity for our organizations. And about a few years ago, we received a letter from the village of Ashwaubenon saying that our property was blighted. And quite honestly, we totally agree. Our property is in a very deteriorated condition if you were to look closer at it. And as we're not looking to really invest money in this existing property for improvement. One of the things that I wanted to do was have an opportunity to meet with neighbors, to see what their thoughts were, and to get a feel of that. And in just a few days, I've had an opportunity to speak to many of the neighbors. And where I talked to the neighbors was from Morris Avenue to Marvell Lane on Oneida Street. On that strip alone, there's 14 homes and 7 businesses, not including tenants, just owners. 12 have told me that they are in favor of the 4-story Cambria Hotel, as you will have the documented signing in front of all of you. That equals 57% of owners of this property. This was done in a few days and not able to get a hold of everyone. For example, two were opposed to it, and 2 were not opposed, just did not want to sign. And 5 of these 21 people were not able to get a hold of. So we have a very strong desire to make this better, this area. One of the conversations that I had with the neighbors was there was not a consensus saying, we're going to turn this into an Airbnb. In fact, I didn't hear that at all. Or sell their property. These people love this neighborhood. It's a great, great neighborhood. And the other thing that I talked to an anonymous business owner in this area, and he told me that he is very strong for this development. So we have heard the concerns. We care about the neighbors, of both the neighbors and the site plan, and we have a strong desire to make this a wonderful place to live. We're proud of the village of Ashwaubenon, and we are here for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to reiterate a few points from the letter that we provided to Plan Commission. In the recent years, 2 4-story structures that exceeded 36 feet have been proposed and approved in the last 4 to 5 years. One of them actually being built by Slindy Development. It's likely that the 36-foot height restriction set in 2007 was because of fire department equipment at the time, which has most likely been updated since then. And we currently exceed our parking needs with 127 on-site parking stalls, which I know was a concern from a few of the neighbors and neighboring businesses. Also, there was some concern about property values from neighboring homeowners. I've also provided staff with a letter from a reputable real estate broker saying that property values are likely to increase due to the construction of the Cambria. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Alex or Jeff?
I'm assuming this are the petition that you, well, I want to say petition, the signatures you got walking through the neighborhood on what you were talking about as far as people for it?
That is correct.
These are copies of it, all right.
That is correct.
All right, looking at a letter here from a realtor from a commercial realty, Colliers International. You were talking to a senior vice president about property values, claiming they do not decrease property value,
That's correct.
that it actually helps them create something. The only reason I'm bringing this up, this information comes from a commercial real estate company. They do not sell residential property. So I'm just bringing that forward to let the people know on the information that we have here. So I'm hoping you're right in saying this.
Yeah, that broker spent a lot of his career doing residential real estate as well.
Before going to commercial?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know, because I personally know the fellow only as commercial. So if he came from that background, that's fine. So those are the only two comments I want to make at this time.
Does anybody have any other questions, concerns, comments? I know that there are some residents in the audience that are going to want to speak, so I'm sure we'll open the floor for them, but
Do we need to
do we
open
have
the
any?
floor?
Not quite yet. Do we have any other questions for Jeff or Alex? Oh, and we have Tim would like to speak from Consolidated Construction too. So, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Tim Wren, Consolidated Construction, 4300 North Richmond Street.
Amy McNally, Consolidated Construction, 4300 North Richmond Street in Appleton.
Okay.
Okay, well, Aaron's going to put up some slides that we put up for you, but I'll keep this brief, but I did want to tell you a little bit
Pull the
about...
mic up to
Oh, I'm sorry.
yourself, please.
Yeah. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. We wanted to show you a few slides and answer any questions you might have about the actual building. Aaron did a good job giving us a summary, but I thought we'd do a little bit more than that for you guys, so you can have a more perspective on the building. Like I said, my name is Tim Wren. I'm a director at Consolidated Construction. Done lots of hotels in my lifetime, including a lot of them that are right here in the village. Next to me is Amy McNally. She's our architect from Consolidated. We do hotel and hospitality projects all throughout the Midwest. This will actually be our fourth Cambria, so we've done this before. We've done Cambrias in Appleton. We're looking to do one in Madison, actually with JCAP. We did one in Bloomington, Minnesota, and also down Milwaukee area. All been successful projects, all are in similar neighborhoods, similar situations to this, to your area here. We want to talk a little bit about what we've done from the last meeting till now, so you can kind of have an idea. We put a lot of effort and work and listen to you very carefully, and really appreciate everybody's comments and thoughts, and that's what makes projects better, is challenging the architect and the construction team and the developer to make projects better. So we really appreciate that. We don't run away from it. We embrace that. So what we heard is that the building was too tall and it didn't fit here really well. So what we did is, within the confines of Cambria, we used their 4-story prototype. Amy did a great job packaging everything in the building and still making it function properly. But we were able to bring it down to an average of 50 feet, which, like Alex had said, there are 2 other projects that were approved at the same height, actually a little taller than our building is. We do extend a little bit above that, but you heard why. It's for screening and all that. So we did hit the height that we were trying to accomplish. So beyond that, there's a couple other things that were brought up to our attention. Parking was one of them. We now have 127 parking stalls on our site, and we have permission with a local nearby business owner to have 100 extra off-site stalls during peak times. But 127 is pretty typical for other Cambrias that we've done. It's usually one per key, and we have more than that. So we're feeling pretty comfortable that that'll work really well for us. We are working with Robert E. Lee, our civil engineer. You probably know who they are. They're a well-known local civil firm, to help us really work on ingress and egress and traffic lanes and landscaping. And so we believe we're going to hit all the requirements going forward with the site plan, with stormwater and everything. So we feel really comfortable that this is a good fit for the neighborhood. It's a good transition project. See what else did I have in here that you might be interested in. I think that's pretty much it. So we talked about parking. We met the needs. We did lower the height of the building. We positioned it on the site too, so that we could block as few views as possible. We could have easily put it parallel on Oneida, but we made it perpendicular for reasons, so that people could have viewing corridors, not just of Lambeau, but of other businesses, and that's pretty typical too. We really looked at how we could do that, and I think we have the most efficient site plan we could have. So I'll turn it over to Amy if she wants to add some detail to the.
So I thought I'd just run through the new design quickly. As you can see, this is a rendering that's approximately taken from across Oneida Street, just down north a bit from the site.
Can I stop you right there for just a second? How wide is that? I see a lot of dimensions here, and we're not seeing any dimensions on what is the direct site of Oneida Street. Because if you look to the right, that's the staircase to the far back. So this is the part where the signage is. How wide is that the people will be looking at?
I believe it's about 67 feet.
I can't find it on here, and that's why I kind of butted in
The
on
site
here.
plan, that's probably better.
I looked at the layout on the first floor, Gary, and it looks like it's like 65 feet. actual.
65 feet, that would be butted right up to the Oneida Street.
The
Okay,
Oneida
all right.
Street.
I didn't find it, that's why I asked.
No worries. Okay. So as you recall, this is the previous site plan, showing just the linear hotel and the two commercial sites. We revised it in order to get the same number of rooms in the L. We needed to create an L shape. We're looking at 100 rooms for this hotel. And we did take off the commercial buildings and now have 127 parking spaces on the site. Go to the, oops. Then we got the first floor plan. There's 9 rooms in your basic hotel amenities, swimming pool, fitness, lobby, meeting room, and food and beverage and restaurant for the hotel. The second and third floor have 33 rooms each, be your basic hotel. Fourth floor has 25 rooms, and we have a cocktail lounge with outdoor seating up on the fourth floor with great views across Ashwaubenon, including Lambeau Field. And then the elevations. So the top elevation is the north elevation, and that corner is what you would see on Oneida Street. The one down in the lower left-hand corner is the elevation you would see from Oneida Street. That's what's facing Oneida Street at this time. And one in the lower right-hand corner is the face of the L facing Oneida Street. And these are the remaining 2 elevations, the ones the front with the drive-in and the main entry to the hotel. Just a couple more views. We put a rendering together from the patio up on the 4th floor. As you can see, it's a pretty awesome view from up there. And And then, yeah, again, it's the rendering of the hotel. I do have some images of Cambria we can quickly go through, so you can see what typical Cambria looks like. And so that's a pretty standard prototypical hotel. Again, it's another view. Just some typical views of the various lobby images, what you'd see if you'd walk into any given Cambria. And these are directly from Cambria's website and marketing information. Cambria is one of Choice's upscale hotels. So,
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Amy or Tim? Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, I'm sure that there are people that would like to talk in the audience, so
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
motion and a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Anybody would like to speak up for this item? Come on up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Jerry Starridge, 2122 South Oneida Street. As a longtime resident of South Oneida Street, my husband and I have enjoyed many of the upgrades to street conditions and development. While that can be a good thing, it does come with a set of concerns. Our home is located directly across the street from the proposed development, and I would like to take the opportunity to share my concerns with making an exception to the height restriction. I requested a copy of the village-wide restriction map following the last meeting, along with a copy of the actual study. I was able to obtain the map, but not a summary of why the decisions were made. In looking at the map, it appears that the 36-foot height restriction is in place in any area of Ashwaubenon that contains residential properties on the same street. This includes the stretch of South Oneida Street with residences on the west side and commercial development on the east side. If an exception is made to allow for this development to exceed the height restriction in any way, a precedent is being set for any future developments along this corridor. I'm hearing today that because of exceptions already made, that's kind of an argument. I think it's backing my case that it's setting a precedent. So if the village is willing to compromise this unique, one-of-a-kind residential neighborhood, thank you, Aaron, for those words at the last meeting, there is really no reason why it would not happen again and again with every property along Oneida Street, because eventually they're all going to be redeveloped. In essence, the neighborhood will be taken away from the homeowners. There has been a lot of talk about people not wanting to lose their view of Lambeau Field. I would like to say that our view to the east has been obstructed with the development of Element Way. We used to sit on our front porch and watch fireworks at the Rocker Stadium. We're no longer able to see them. We will also lose the chance to watch the sunrise over the top of Asheville Square. By the time the sun gets over a 4- or 5-story building, I'll be serving lunch. But as much as I don't like losing those views, I think that there are more important things to consider when making a decision to allow the development to exceed the height restriction. That circles back to my original concern regarding current business and potential future developments. The traffic on the corridor of South Oneida Street, specifically from Morris Avenue to Cormier Road, has increased drastically over the years. Along with the increase in vehicles, the speed at which it travels and the occurrence of reckless driving and behaviors has also increased. Currently, it doesn't seem like enough is being done to control this issue, and allowing large developments, ones that exceed current height restrictions, is only going to add to this growing concern. I believe that our public safety officers have higher priority items to be focusing on other than the traffic on Oneida Street, and I have made an attempt and I have made an attempt to reach out to the county to discuss my concerns, specifically discussing the addition of a stoplight at the corner of Marvell Lane and Oneida Street. While a stoplight will not reduce the amount of traffic, it may help slowing down the speed in which the traffic is traveling. To date, after Aaron reaching out to the county once on my behalf and my sending a follow-up email, I have received no response from anyone at the county. These are my concerns with allowing a development that exceeds current height restrictions. I'm asking for reasonable assurance on the part of the village that if we open the door to increase the development, that the village is going to work on behalf of our residences along that corridor to protect our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, would anybody else like to speak about this project? Is there anyone online that would like to speak about this project? Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up to the table and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bob Klenke. I am at 2129 South Oneida Street. I have the Frame of Mind shop. I just want to make a few points that I jotted down as I listened to what was going on. I agree that the buildings are getting old and they are getting blighted. I also agree that something should be done, can be done. At one of the meetings that I attended, we were told that we have a lot of benefits from increased business coming to Ashwaubenon, which I do appreciate immensely. I lived in Ashwaubenon for 40 years. I guess my point is that you want the building to enhance Ashwaubenon, you want it to fit in. And I'm not so sure that that building going in that spot fits in. That's number one. Number two, I think that if they go in, somebody mentioned that there were 14 houses and all the businesses. A lot of the houses across the street can and probably will down the road become packer houses. And those houses then do not house families. And families are what fills our school here in Ashwaubenon. So we have enough packer houses in Green Bay right now. We have enough in Ashwaubenon right now. So it didn't, watching the hotels going up in the section to the east doesn't affect a lot of our housing. So just that's something that should be kept in mind. More packer houses. I was a custodian at Ashwaubenon School District, so I know what lack of families can do to a neighborhood, especially having just packer houses. I also noticed that with the development, the architect showed us a picture of the view with a bar up on the top floor, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty. I like it. The problem is that it also then presents noise. And all these neighbors that live in that area, and we're talking even Oneida Street, back up to Ridge Road to the west, all those houses, they can hear the noise coming from the current bars that are over on Holmgren. So now you put another bar over here, and we have more noise. So it's nice looking, but it's a mess. Neighbors, I feel that a lot of the neighbors, now I went to the meeting earlier at 3 o'clock today, and it was canceled. So I didn't even get a chance to see what the current development is until tonight when I just saw it here. My feeling on that is I want it to be a good place for the neighbors. I think that the neighborhood on Oneida Street and behind have not had a chance to view the example or the showing that just went here. I think the neighbors should be allowed to view it. They should be able to understand it. And so not seeing it, all of a sudden, if you say, hey, yeah, let's do this, they haven't had a chance to even look at it, voice their opinion or anything. And a lot of times they'll see something in the Press Gazette or something on the news, and it's not the whole story. So I think that those people should have a chance to absorb this. So I guess what I'm asking is, I don't have a problem necessarily with you saying yes. My feeling should be that these people should have a chance to at least look at it and see it. We also had at the last board meeting, we talked about a study that was done. I don't know who brought it up. Somebody brought up a study that was done in 2007, 8, I don't know what it was. And that study gave us a height limit. And one of the board members, I'm not sure who, doesn't make any difference, made a comment about why did they set that height to that height? And I guess I asked you, can any of you tell us any information on that? Can you tell us why they did that height? If you can't tell me that, I think that we should slow down a little bit and let's find out why they did that height. I guess that's pretty much what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak about this item? Anybody online who'd like to speak about this item? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to
Motion to
close.
close the floor?
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Aaron, can you share so that everybody understands what are the steps that go through? Because this is just one.
Right. So the first item we had where we introduced the project was the neighborhood meeting that we held. The site plan review committee meeting then met on September 5th to review it. We held off on the plan commission meeting until the special meeting today. And then the village board meeting next week, Tuesday, will hold a formal public hearing before the village board takes formal action on the request.
So everybody is going to get a shot to see it before, because I absolutely agree with his comment that I think everybody needs to be able to see this and absorb it.
And just to be clear, it was in the agenda packet, which was posted last week.
Yeah, I just think now, the awareness will be there, and I think it'll be great that everybody gets to see it. I think that's very, very important so that everybody can see what is it, how much is on Oneida Street, what's it blocking. Everybody can then come with good questions to that hearing. I encourage everybody to come with good questions when we get to that village board meeting.
So today, though, Aaron, this is strictly setting the height, correct?
Correct. We are, right, the request is for the PUD to allow for an increased height up to 58 feet from 36-foot standard.
And there still has to be a site plan review.
That's correct. The site plan actually was submitted. The formal site plan review process will take place in October during a regular site plan review committee meeting. They'll go to plan commission meeting again, and also a village board in October.
Okay.
Is it a correct statement that the mechanical rooms are to the eastmost portion of the building? In other words, they're not on Oneida Street, they're back?
I'd have to look at the site plan. I guess, is there?
Are they above, they're not above the bar?
So the rooftop deck cocktail lounge area that is fronting on Oneida Street.
Is that the 58 feet, or is the mechanical, where we were talking the fence,
So-
et cetera, is that to the east end of the building?
So the parapet wall is at 58 feet on Oneida Street.
On Oneida.
And that, of course, that is screening any rooftop mechanicals from view.
So there's nothing above the rooftop bar? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what Mike was asking.
It doesn't make sense to have the bar out on Oneida Street and put a fence in front of it, or on top of it, no?
So there's an architectural feature that kind of wraps around it. I guess I'm not sure how to, articulate that.
Compare it to Kohler. Is it like Kohler?
Pardon?
Is it like Kohler, the top floor Kohler?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey.
May I ask a question? How late is the cocktail lounge open? Is it open all the time? Where is it? And
I will defer to the development team on that. Would you mind coming up?
It would be open till 11 PM on weekdays and then later for Packer game weekends.
Okay.
You know, that was one of my concerns too, is with that open area. And is there going to be entertainment out there? Is there not? No. That's more of a site plan review
Right. Those are-
question than tonight.
Right.
But I have some very big concerns about that because I do agree about the noise thing. I grew up at 2107 Kasner, and I know darn well I'd be able to hear that if there would be entertainment going on up there. So that is definitely a concern that I do have with that whole neighborhood, is the noise coming out of that bar being on the upper floor there.
So that's not really an issue, though, that we
That's not an
can
issue tonight.
figure today. Today, it's only the height, right?
Correct.
So
it is an issue.
it is an issue,
The
but
height is what, for those of us who live in the neighborhood, we're getting it from, particularly in mine, we get it from both ends, east and west of the stadium and the stadium. But the higher up, the more it
it'll
goes back.
carry.
And we're getting it definitely in our neighborhood. I'm not the representative of it, but I'm certainly, I know the person who is. So I know that the sound, when it's up, is carrying out to our neighborhood as well, right and back, off of Kasner, off of that whole area. So that, it is an issue, that it's up and that, up that high.
Well, we do have a noise ordinance that can only play till, I believe it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and
but-
we don't plan on having live music. It'll be a hotel bar. It'll never get really raucous except for, as you know, Packer games.
But the noise comes from whatever the way the wind blows. That's
true.
kind of how I look at it.
That's true.
Sometimes we hear it over on Ridge, sometimes we hear it down here in the entertainment district. So, I mean, we hear the baseball field over here,
Yeah.
so,
So are
But
these,
I like your comment, noise, the higher they are, the less it's going to impact that real close neighborhood, so and they're not having entertainment, so that kind of answered that question.
so here's my question, because today we're only focusing on the height.
Right.
Is this something that, as Bob said, should we just stop a minute and figure those things out before we come with the height? Just a thought.
Can you make a motion saying you approve, I'm going to just make what's the word? It's not a motion, it's
a
just
fake
an
one?
idea. Okay, let's face facts. In the middle of the winter, nobody's out on the deck, okay? They're not having a beer out at 20 degrees outside on a deck at 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. Can you make a motion that says the deck closes at 10 o'clock, period, and contingent?
No.
No, okay.
I'm sure we can't do that.
Do that, okay.
No. But like I said, tonight, this meeting is only to focus on the height. I personally would like to see this better at 3-story, but I understand, I mean, these are tough decisions because we are landlocked in Ashwaubenon, and our land costs are very high. So in order for anybody to develop, they do have to go up. But there's just so many questions on it.
Mary, did anybody go back and look in the archives as to when those heights were set? Couldn't
Jay, I
find
was
it?
at every one of those meetings, and I cannot remember why they picked 36 feet. I do know a lady who sat on that committee. She does not live here. She lives, I think, in Lawrence
I think
now.
that's a fair question. I mean, we don't know why, what was their
I would
thought
assume
process
that
there.
it was because there was residential right across the street.
I think I might have been in news at the time that you did that, and that was the development, I think, before Lodge Color came in and before Titletown. There was a hotel proposed at that time in the residential area, remember? And it was 5.
On Ridge Road, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I
That was a
remember that.
condo.
And it was
Yeah,
5.
that-
And,
yeah.
and at that time, the residents of that area were exactly like this, opposing it because of the restriction, you know, because it would restrict their views to Lambeau Field. Now, most of them have turned all over into Airbnbs in those areas anyhow.
Yeah.
So you got the same,
Well, you're right.
Right.
We're talking about the same subject. They came back with a 5-story, didn't work, it was disapproved. It came back later, came back with a 4-story, which was approved,
yep.
and it never happened.
Right.
You know, that was the story there. I wasn't on the board at that time, but
think
that was a
that's
hot
when-
topic.
I think that's when they set the restrictions.
That started the restrictions, that's correct. But
Okay, so we're back here to what do we want to do with this height?
Personally, I think, like you said, Mary, with the cost of the land, in order for somebody to have a legitimate business, you almost have to build up. So for me, I guess them wanting 5 stories and going down to 4, I guess is a pretty good indication that they really want to make this work. So for me, I think we should let them build it. That land that's there is in need of dire repair. It's a nice looking project.
So you're saying the 58-foot height?
Yeah, I mean, it's 50 feet plus the parapet. That's, I mean, the screening, that's our ordinance, so, and that would never be considered in height, would it, Aaron, for building?
Screening itself, not what the parapet wall is.
Okay, yeah. So 58 feet, I mean,
Who's going to put the restrictions on the, I mean, if the signage is 60 feet across, and they've got to look, first, everything's blocked in front of, you know, my neighbors on Oneida Street, okay? Now they got to look out, and there's a sign, it's a lit sign, obviously, correct?
Correct.
All right, and it's across, how many feet?
It would depend upon what they're proposing. It can be up to 20% of the wall face.
I don't remember, there was a Cambria in the, that became Spring Hill Suites over in the industrial park. And I don't remember them having lit lighting on that building when they opened it. That was Bob, I can't remember the developer's name, but that originally opened as a Cambria Suites Hotel.
that was on Tony Kennedy.
On Tony Kennedy Road. And that had no lit, I don't think it had a lit sign. So who's going to put the restrictions on that? Is this site plan?
Right.
I'm concerned of the height, but I'm also concerned about, you know, what they're all looking at. And, you know,
When it comes to exterior materials, signage, things like that, it does fall under a site plan review process, which is a by right process.
Well, we have a signage law, don't we? Or-
Correct. And that's what I'm getting at is
Yeah.
they would have to they have to comply to our sign requirements.
We're getting a little bit away from the height issue.
Right,
right.
right.
All right, help me out here, Aaron.
Okay.
From here, if we approve it, it goes to site plan.
From here, it goes to village board.
Well,
For the
Site plan
PUD. For the PUD.
Oh, for the PUD.
You're voting on the PUD tonight, making a recommendation to the village board. The village board will hold a public hearing on the PUD for height. Village board will take action on the PUD for height next week, Tuesday.
Yes.
Following that, should the PUD for height be approved, it goes to site plan review, including plan commission and village board in October.
Okay, okay.
Right.
Okay,
Have a
understand.
motion to approve.
The 58-foot with the
Yes,
127.
Absolutely,
58 feet with 127 parking spots.
yes.
Okay? We have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the 58-foot height with 127 parking spots.
Okay.
And I think at this point, I think this is the thing to do so that we can get to an open hearing and to get all of the things aired out. So I think it's fine for us to push this forward. Having everybody understand, this is not the final approval. There's other steps that have to happen, but we can then get it to probably a much better place in order to make the decision, so.
Jay, can I ask you, what are you looking for so that they can see more? I've been asking for that. I think they did a little better job than they did the last time. What are your thoughts on that? What are you looking for?
I really want to make sure that we aren't talking for people that are, that have their concerns, which are very valid. I very much appreciate it. Like I said, I grew up in this neighborhood. I know this neighborhood. I would like to really make sure that everybody has had that chance to look at this and to really vet it out. Because it's not for tonight, but I do have some major concerns with where that restaurant is, where the bar is, where that outdoor area is. I can't, I know you're saying it's going to close at 10 o'clock. Yeah, but if it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday and somebody just happens to have a work party going on up there, it's going to be noisy. And there's just no way to stop that. So I know that isn't tonight,
Right.
but I do have concerns, but I think if we can move that forward and start to work on those.
So tonight
that's kind of where I have more concerns, Gary, on the site plan part of it than, okay, it's 65, it's going to be up at 58 feet. All right.
Okay.
Call the question.
So, okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the PUD at 58 feet with 127 parking spots.
Correct.
Now, the rest of the stuff will be taken care of at other meetings. This is strictly to put the 58-foot height. Okay? Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll take care of the other stuff at a different meeting then. Okay, items for next agenda. Aaron? We will have...
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.